OHC stands for Open Healthcare Network. We are a team of enthusiastic developers and contributors committed to building open technology, especially in the healthcare domain.
The ratio of number of doctors and nurses in India is not comparable to the actual number of people who's required. The more time we are able to save, that's the time they can spend with the patients.
OHC built Care, which is our open source flagship product. We identify hospitals and connect them to the closest care center. The doctors or the specialists get a complete picture of how the patient is doing, and if the doctors feel that they need to be moved, then they have a referral system through the software that tracks the journey of the patient.
I'm not doing the miracles, but I'm just giving some tips of life-sustaining techniques. So that's how driving me and our team more and more.
Early on, we were very fortunate to have active participation from healthcare professionals. They're the ones telling us what to build, how to build.
The engineer showed me how I can contribute on GitHub. I am writing the special issue of I need this button there so that I can have better accessibility of shifting a patient. Within 1 week, I see a link to the finished product. That is when I really saw the magic.
We have more than 400 people contribute from around the world. The developers were very interested. They were like, okay, there's a request from a doctor. We have to go solve it for him. Then they pick up the issue, then they actually go and build it.
We have seen the quality of code improve immensely with Copilot. So it's almost like everybody's gotten their own personal assistant.
I just have to say what I want in a few comments, and it's able to write out the entire thing for me. It's like another human helping me out. Having everything in open source from day one actually improved the trust.
When OHC came in, suddenly I realized that the small decision I make, the small issue that I file, now it's impacting millions.
This healthcare transformation created a very significant positive impact to every citizen of India.
Hello. Good morning, good afternoon. Happy Friday, everyone. Welcome to Open Source Friday. Thank you for being here today. I hope everyone had an amazing week. We are very, very busy around these parts, getting together our GitHub Universe event. I hope some of you are going to be there. It's going to be a fun opportunity to learn not only about the amazing things that GitHub will be shipping, but also get to talk to maintainers, get to talk to your favorite tech people. So I hope to see some of you there. Welcome to Open Source Friday. If you're joining today and you joined the past couple of weeks, you know we were doing a giveaway, and I want to make sure that everyone has entered said giveaway because we are going to do it at the end of the stream. So if you are in the Raleigh, North Carolina area, or have a way to get to Raleigh, North Carolina, and are interested in attending All Things Open, which is an incredible conference, a really great opportunity for you to get to meet a lot of awesome folks and also learn a ton. Please enter the giveaway. I am going to be sharing the link here in a moment. And at the end of the show, we'll go ahead and do it. And then also, because some folks are not going to be able to go to North Carolina, right? Not everyone is local. I thought that we should also do a giveaway of a GitHub swag coupon for the shop so that you can buy something fun for yourself. So stay tuned. I'm going to be sharing the ATO giveaway link here in a moment. And then for the other giveaway, don't worry, I'm doing it at random based off on your comments on social. So don't need to enter, just be here, comment, help one another on the chat, and you too can maybe win some GitHub swag or an opportunity to go to the shop and buy whatever you want. So again, I'm Andrea Griffith, Sala Colombia dev in all places. My true honor to get here and be with you and talk to you about this awesome project. So today we have, I think it's the first time we have a design-focused project in Open Source Friday, which is amazing, super special for all of you out there who have open source projects and very much like me, lack any sense of design skills whatsoever. These folks are literally doing the work for you. And this collective, that's probably not how they practically prefer, but this organization and this open source project is supporting other open source projects and also supporting designers. So I am absolutely thrilled to welcome Eriol. Hello, welcome to Open Source Friday, and Yan. Hello, Yan. Welcome to Open Source Friday. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having us.
So I'm super excited to, first of all, get to know you a little bit better. Also, folks, let's send some love in the chat because both these amazing humans are in time zones far away. And it's the end of the day for them. And it's Friday. And the body knows it. And they're here sharing what they know with you. So let's send them some love, please. Thank you for being here again. So what is open source design, please? Someone help me.
Wow, what is open source design? So open source design is a lot of different things, but primarily it's a community. It's a community of not just designers or people that self-identify as designers. It's for open source projects as well, or anybody that's interested in open source and design and how those two sort of things meet and work together. We have a number of different things that we maintain and a number of different things that we do as part of that effort to better advocate for whatever design is in open source. And I kind of am broad because one of the big challenges about doing design in open source is the impression that people have of what design is, which I won't answer right now, but I'll maybe kick it to Jan to fill in any gaps about what open source design does that isn't like the community aspect. Have you got anything to add, Jan?
No, I think that was an excellent and terse explanation. So
perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. But I am going to pick on you, Jan, because I do want to know a little bit about the history of the project itself. So if you can take us for a time machine moment, and I love if you could tell us a little bit about the origins, like how did it get started and when did it get started? How long ago has the project been active?
That is a good question, and I don't like my gut feeling would say like something like 2015. I'm not sure, but I'm yeah, no, not entirely sure about the dates, but sort of the rough timeline, if you want. I think sort of at the sort of end of the big open source hype of the noughties, and there were several initiatives that were thinking about, okay, like we focus so much on code and code collaboration, like what can we do? There were other projects, I think, like open usability, having sort of a very HCI usability testing focus, and then like the initiatives that our open source design then sort of came from, that were also focusing on one hand on getting designers involved in open source projects and also opening up design processes. And there was a lot of overlap in the beginning, and then kind of those communities split, and open source design focused not exclusively, but made that an important part, like supporting open source projects and being part of open source software communities. There's still concern for designing in the open, sharing processes, sharing experiences, but it wasn't like the main aspect.
I got it. So I think you're coming up on, I guess, 10 years then, if it's like 2015, which is absolutely wild to think about for an open source project. That is amazing. I was poking through your website, and I love that you have very clear and established what your goals are, right? Like opening up the design processes that you just mentioned is, I guess, one of the key goals for the project, right? Eriol, I don't know if you can share, like, because I'm sure this was not an easy thing, like an uphill battle to try and get not only designers involved in open source, but also to share those learnings, best practices. How has it been like trying to incorporate those open design processes from big organizations? Because you want to do this with like Mozilla and Canonical.
For sure. And in fact, I think a few of the core maintainer, so the way that open source design is kind of structured is we have quite a big community of us, a fair few hundred members, like in our forum, across our GitHub, the people that come to our dev room at FOSDEM and various other talks. We've got, I don't think that we could really put a number on how many people are like in our wider community, but we've got a group of core maintainers, and some of them have indeed worked at big organizations like Mozilla, Canonical, and other places in the design departments, and then brought their kind of community cohesion needs and feelings and expertise into the open source design group as well. But yeah, it's I became a maintainer. Well, I became a community member in 2019 when I started my first paid role in an open source organization as a designer. And I was looking myself for, well, essentially I had the question when I was, before then I'd been like a designer in proprietary closed organizations, nothing to do with open source. I knew what it was vaguely, but I didn't really know what it meant any deeper. And I certainly didn't think it had anything to do with design before I really kind of started working in it. And I was looking at all these developers and all these people from the community submitting like code and collaborating. I was like, do we work with these people? It's like, well, no, they don't get paid. They're the community, they contribute. And I was like, wow, wouldn't it be amazing if I could have that for design? And that's when I discovered the open source design community and realized that there are designers thinking about this. And you kind of, each designer tends to go through their own discovery period around like open source, whether open source comes first and then it's design, or whether it's design first and then the kind of need to contribute to something is quite prevalent in the design field, the design industry anyway. But yeah, there certainly are a lot of challenges trying to contribute design to big open source projects or small open source projects. I would struggle to name them all in the time that we have, but I would say one of the main things, and one of the things that open source design does its best to help with, is trying to enable open source projects to signal to designers about what they want. Because often open source projects don't quite know how to put into words. Like they might have like oh, we could do with something. We know that something's not quite right.
I love that.
Our users are complaining, the developers that are contributing are sending in bugs and then fixing things. And it's not all about like a open source tool that has a GUI. A lot of the time, we kind of get, as open source design, pushed to the side because it's like, oh, we don't have a GUI, so we don't need design help. And if you don't have a GUI, you still could do with some design help. But yeah, the main thing is trying to enable open source projects with the confidence, the vocabulary, and the access to design, essentially. That's really the first hurdle. And then the designers tend to be so hungry for it that once those things happen, the designers will find you.
Oh, you touched on a point that is so key to not only open source, but software development as a whole. We don't know how to communicate our needs. And especially when you're in a field that's completely unrelated to yours, it can be like you feel like you're speaking a completely different language. So I love that is one of your key, also another one of your key goals, to make sure that designers have the communication skills, right? And improve those communications between the designers and the developers. That's absolutely fantastic. Is there any established, like, I don't know if there is any like public guidance, or do you do anything like specific to that? Like if designers come and join the project and they're like, I'm struggling at work because I can't convince the developers that it's not as easy as just adding this one thing on the corner, or, it's important that we do things a certain way. I wonder if there is a shared practices. I know you have a community, but just thinking out loud, like how do you share those resources?
Maybe I'll talk about a contribution that was made recently by a community member, like in the last few months, and then maybe I'll kick it to Jan to talk a little bit about our monthly calls and kind of how that facilitates. So recently, and I'll drop the link for folks. But recently, we had a contributor write a guide on how to essentially how to best fill out our jobs form. And we call it jobs because that's kind of what it's called on our website there. But it's a place essentially where open source projects can fill out a web form that then creates a pull request in our GitHub repository. We review, as the maintainers of open source design, we review that job to make sure it fits a few criteria. And then we make it public on our website for designers to find. But there are some guidance tips there on how best to kind of fill out that specific form. So how to describe your design job, and just kind of some simple guidance that designers don't necessarily, especially if they're starting out in open source, don't necessarily know the etiquette of how to communicate on an open source project. So you might say, oh, here's our repo, or here's our, Mattermost, or here's our channel for communication. But a designer isn't necessarily going to kind of go ahead and start chatting in the ways that coders and developers are and ask questions in the same way that those kinds of folks will. So we add a little bit of guidance to say, hey, designers, make sure you reach out to these people. Hey, these people, make sure you give a communication method that isn't kind of a communication method that is a little unusual for, say, designers to kind of interact with. But I'll kick it to Jan for monthly call stuff.
Monthly call stuff, yes. So we have a monthly call, and I don't know if I can tell so much about it because it doesn't sort of have a particular agenda. Also because like people who come to it, like that's kind of fluctuating. Sometimes it's bigger groups, up to 10 people. Sometimes it's very few people and just 2 or 3 that meet. So usually we divide that up a bit and see in the beginning if there are any sort of administrative topics we need to talk about, something that clearly needs to take space to just keep the community running. Also, just the round of other people who publish blog posts, who go to conferences, who might want to get a review on a talk they are giving. Something that's stuck in some queues in our GitHub or on our forum, these sort of things. And then usually we, this being done, we sort of go into an open conversation on whatever topics are currently on people's minds. I think like recently I discussed some tool ideas and a little programming project I worked on. Some other community member brought some ideas about AI and design and which role that might play, and so on. So this is basically like people bring in topics and then we go through them, and usually in small groups it's kind of self-moderating, and if not, usually people from the core team are there and would usually take that role a bit and see so that we can cover all the topics.
That's awesome. That's awesome that you provide a space for folks to come in and share. Let's take a look. I'd love to take a look at maybe the repo or the website, Earl, so we can take a look at how folks can contribute and participate. So maybe if you could share your screen.
Okay.
We can.
Absolutely.
That would be great. That way we can take a look. And folks, also because it's very important, not only that we go by this repo and leave a wonderful start, which we do very well here at Open Source Friday, but also we need to talk about how we can support this project. So I want to make sure that we get to touch on the Open Collective and sponsors.
Oh, yes.
Because the servers ain't paying themselves for free. So, all right. So what am I looking at?
They certainly are not paying for themselves for free. No. So this is the open source design website. It's kind of it's the first place that most people find when they go, open source and design. I wonder if something exists for those two things together. And one of the places that most open source projects and designers are going to be interested in is the jobs section just at the top there. Here we have a listing of all the different jobs or contribution requests that have come through recently. So if you're a project and you're looking for designers to, there's something that you think that you want from a design, kind of broad design kind of idea. It could be research, user testing, it could be UI help, it could be usability. There's so much that can be helped with. You're going to want to go into the poster job and then go through this lovely form here. And then what will happen is this is one that was recently merged from Multic. Multic are looking for some digital badge graphics for their project recently. And then what's going to happen is a pull request is going to get made of that request, and we'll go ahead and review it, and then we'll merge it in, and that's how it gets popped on the website. But while we're here on GitHub, there's lots of other things that you can find on the GitHub, and maybe we'll pop back to the website as well to tell y'all a little bit about how the designers can find what they're looking for.
Awesome.
But we have a number of different repos here. We have the repo here for the website is also where we host a lot of our issues to improve various things across open source design, either things that are on the website, like perhaps articles or ways to improve the forum, and things like that. So there's lots of issues that can be picked up there. So if you're a developer or a coder looking to help out designers and help out the open source design project with your coding skills, we definitely need help with various different things there. And then we have a number of different other repositories with quite a lot of really interesting knowledge over the years. So we've got information about the events that we've hosted and the different materials, presentations, handouts that different designers have created, as well as like talk slides and other things like that. And then a few repos that maybe aren't as how do I want to say this, as fresh as they maybe used to be, but certainly an intention to make as many sort of open design things available as possible. But there's no reason why designers that are interested in maintaining some of those things can't hop on over and be like, oh, I would really love to maintain a repository of open graphics and open logos. We'd absolutely welcome that. For designers, sorry, Andrea.
No, please go ahead.
I was on a roll. For the designers, we recommend heading over to the forum hosted on Discourse. Discourse are a lovely sponsor of ours as well. They sponsor us on Open Collective semi-regularly and keep the lights on, as it were, financially for open source design. But here you're going to find just a number of different kinds of topics being talked about. Some lovely members at the Bitcoin design group at the moment are maintaining a open design guide and doing lots of active work on an open design guide, which is an educational resource for designers to learn about open source. And you're just going to find lots and lots of amazing topics, and topics that you can start yourself. If you've got a topic you want to talk about design and open source, you can either come to the monthly meetings like Jan said and bring an open topic, talk about design, talk about an open source project you want to contribute to, or go ahead and start a forum post.
Very cool. And massive shout out to the folks at Discourse. Thanks for the sponsorship. Thanks for letting you folks have the space so that these conversations can happen in an organized and effective way. All right. So let's give shout out to your sponsors. Let's do that. I feel like we don't say it thank you enough.
Yeah, we've got a lot of individual amazing sponsors. We are hosted on Open Collective at the moment for monetary contributions. I believe also, I think we've enabled GitHub sponsors as well, haven't we? If we haven't,
I'm not sure.
Yeah, we have. Yeah, I think so. But yeah, there's some amazing sponsors, individuals that have helped us out financially over the years. But just to kind of talk a little bit about some of our funding options on Open Collective, there's ways to sponsor us with whatever you can if you do have anything you want to kick our way. But one of the things that we've been really interested in lately is making sure that people that want to talk about design at open source conferences and kind of build that knowledge have the access, the way to get to those conferences. And so there's a specific fund here about travel expenses for design speakers to attend open source conferences. So if you want to make sure that some of the amazing designers all across the world, and just a special shout out to Nigeria specifically, since they are, I believe, the biggest membership team in our, with 30 members in our GitHub team, but they're one of the biggest teams. So shout out to the designers across Nigeria. But yeah, if you want to see Nigerian designers go speak at open source conferences, then you can fund specifically for that, and we can make sure that that gets on the way to them for conferences.
That's very special. I love that you're also using the funding to provide opportunities for the designers. That's really, really special. So when you go to the job page, and I asked the question, so I'm like, I want to make sure that we touch on that, because this is also a space where people who are looking for a job, right, can come. So not just a job that you would want to contribute to a open source project because you're interested in participating in open source, but also legitimately an employment for you to go and work at an open source project or company who's hiring a designer. Is that right?
Absolutely, yes. So over the years, we've had a number of different organizations use the jobs board for paid roles, either contract-based, like with small amounts of funding, or permanent positions at organizations. So if you're looking to hire a designer, you can select a paid option. Here you can see the total had a paid position for designers and also for some animators to make videos as well. So it's not just for asking for free, gratis volunteer contributions from designers. It's also a place where designers can go and make sure that they get paid for their fabulous skills for open source.
Awesome. And so is there any kind of membership? Like, do I need to join anything in order to be able to come and take a look at this job board?
Nope, not at all, not at all. So you can visit the jobs website. You don't have to log in or anything. If one of these jobs looks interesting to you as a designer to contribute to or to apply for, you can just go ahead and click into the job, see some of the more of the details, see the contact details, and then you can go ahead and contact the poster directly. Or if you'd like to start discussing it on our forum, that's the only section where you're then sort of put into a register for the discourse forum for open source design, to then be able to have like a more public conversation about that job post. So one of the things that can happen on jobs that are contribution jobs mostly is if multiple designers want to all kind of find a way to contribute as a team, being able to create a post in our forum for that volunteer contribution is a fantastic way for designers to coordinate like a team approach to a problem and kind of split up the tasks in that way. And a few times we've had projects that have posted jobs looking for designers, and a few times, you know, they'll send messages back to us saying, I've had 10, 15 designers contact me to make contributions. Can you please close my job, because now I've got more designers than I know exactly what to do with. So yeah, it can definitely be a place where you can get a lot of energy from designers and get a lot of traffic, I guess. So you could say traffic.
I love that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, hey, listen, if you have an open source project and you're thinking, maybe this is a place, I could use some better design principles somewhere, it'd be my website or what have you. And I love how you mentioned earlier in the call that even if you don't have a web page or you don't have a front end to your project, like you still could use design principles applied to your project.
Absolutely.
I love this. So before I want to take a couple of questions, but also I wanted to ask you both, because you've been involved with the project for quite some time now. And I think one of the hardest things to talk people into is actually getting involved when, you know, I also have a job and all these things. Like, I don't know if there is anything you can share from either your personal experience of being a part of this project and how it might have impacted your career as a designer, or any kind of anecdotal experiences from your communities where you're seeing that actually, because I say we all know, but here in Open Source Friday, we all know that open source can help you level up your career. But for folks who are maybe tentatively thinking, I don't know if I have time for that, is there anything that you could share there?
I've talked a lot. I'll open it up to Jan. If Jan, you want to, I can ramble if you're not ready, Jan, but go for it if you are.
So the question is like, how did it help us in our past? Yes. I think for me, it was really great to come together with other like-minded people of that in the large community of open source projects. Like, designers are a minority, and to just get contact to other people and kind of just check if sort of the problems I ran into are problems that other people shared. This was really helpful. Like, there are a lot of these discussions. Should designers code? Should designers use Git? And so on. So, and like, these are tools not built for designers, particularly in the open source world, that comes sort of very often from this Unix tradition of tools. And it's very sort of text focused, and just sort of to kind of check my impressions of like, is it normal to have problems with that? The community was immensely helpful for other people just being like, yeah, I also struggle with that. Or, hey, here's an alternative. this is how you could collaborate without maybe going through Git with all things. Like for some stuff, it doesn't work well, and that's fine. And just sort of exchanging a bit there. This was really helpful for me.
That's very big. Go ahead, Eriol, please. I'd love to hear. Oh,
yeah, sorry, it's getting dark here in the UK. I've got two little stories about how open source design can really level you up. The first one is a personal one. Like after joining the community and being there for a number of years, I was able to meet certain people that then hired me into my current position. So through open source design, being able to attend FOSDEM, to speak at FOSDEM, I think back in 2019 was the first time I met my current executive director over at Superbloom Design, and led to a number of kind of volunteer contributions, a number of like knowledge sharing opportunities, and then eventually being hired as a senior designer at Superbloom, where we work on a lot of open source projects and a lot of human rights, security and privacy open source projects there, specifically on the design aspects of those projects. And we were also able to, as Superbloom, offer a number of contracts to other designers in the open source space. So one of them I'd love to mention now, because the talk that I'm doing at All Things Open is about a designer diary study that was funded by the University of Vermont. But the only reason that funding came to the organization to do this diary study was I was on an open source design community call, and a member called Nimisha works as a designer at Nextcloud, asked a question, which is, why aren't designers writing about how they do design on blogs? You know, you see all these developer blogs where it's like, oh, I contributed to this project, I contributed to this project. And I was like, interesting. What if we paid designers to write diaries about how they contribute, to start that off? And so Nimisha, through meeting her in the open source design community, hearing that question, I went and looked for funding, thankfully received some funding. She came on board as a volunteer on that project to kind of see her kind of idea through to fruition, has done a number of talks with me, and we now have had Nimisha as a contractor on a number of different projects in open source where they've been paid. So the involvement in the community can directly benefit you monetarily if that's what you're into, but also just give you the opportunities to speak in the wider open source space as well.
That's amazing. That exposure and those connections can really just enhance your career and opportunities tenfold. Yes. Thank you so much for sharing that. And hey, shout out to her for all the hard work, and like, thank you for I love it when a career started there and then it became this awesome thing. Let's share this blog, because the diary studies of designers in OSS. And then before I forget, because we're going to be giving away a ticket for ATO, and you're going to be at ATO, actually. You're going to be in Raleigh this year, presenting a talk. And would you mind, because I think it's directly related to what we were just talking about, right? Would you mind sharing a little bit about what the talk will be?
It is, yeah. So the diary studies of designers contributing to open source, it's all there in the link, the repo. There is a extensive document to read all the different kinds of things that we learned about, how the challenges that designers have when they are looking for a project, what they look for specifically when they are looking for a project to contribute to. So there's some really good tips to like improve your project's documentation if you want to attract designers. But there's also things like how designers want to receive feedback in a very specific way. So there's some really amazing ways to restructure how you're giving feedback to designers that might be a little bit different to how you would give feedback to folks submitting code, and how to kind of help them thrive in projects. So the talk is going to be a condensed version of an extensive document, a research document of these designers, 10 to 16 weeks in the day in the life of designers that we condensed into these insights.
That is awesome. So, folks, if you're going to ATO, if you win the ticket today or you're already planning to attend, please be sure to check out Eriol's talk. I shared a link directly to the ATO site so that you can take a look and see what time it is and add it to your agendas. Thank you both so very much. I think I find this project absolutely terrific. It's not only open source, but it's about enabling more open source, which is just this beautiful moment of inception and making it more accessible, which is just perfection. Thank you both very, very much. Is there anything else that you'd like to share?
Gosh, how to say this really quickly, but I think one of the key things about the open source design community and one of our big topics of conversation, and I would feel I want to mention, is that our tooling and software isn't as, open source as it could be, as say coding software is, but amazing folks like the folks at penpot.app are doing some amazing work about like really enabling designers to have really effective tooling that really understands open source and the process of open source, because there's great open source software for like Inkscape and GIMP and other tools as well to produce design. But there's something special in the secret sauce that at Penpot about how they're really making an effort to connect the communities of design communities and developer communities and how these two can merge. So if you're nerdy about tooling and open source tooling and how design tooling is, then also come along to the open source design monthly calls and chat with us about that.
This is amazing. Thank you so much, Jen, for sharing the link. You see it there on the screen. For the folks on LinkedIn, I'm going to share it directly there. This is amazing. So that's great. And this is also an open source project, and it's all correct?
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
And fully open source design prototyping tool. It's truly amazing what the folks at Penpot have been able to achieve in the years they've been building it.
That is incredible, because most of the software costs an absolute fortune. Like anything that has to do with design, I find that that's a really humongous expense. So for all of you who maybe you were starting in your career, this is a good opportunity to start using tooling that's not only open source, it will remain free for the rest of your career. So how cool is that? That is fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing that. I wasn't familiar with this project. I'll be sure to share internally too with our folks so we can start getting some more visibility. Yes. We have to shout out when awesome things like this come together. Jan, I don't know if there's anything that you want to add before we close out.
No, I think a shout out to Penpot is an excellent close to that. It's a great tool. Try it out.
Amazing. Okay, and before we close for real, if I want to get involved with Open Design, just go ahead and join the Discord, and you can start having conversations there. Visit the website, check out the jobs posting. If you're a designer who has an interest in starting to contribute to open source projects, what a great way to make a contribution, doing what you know how to do very well, and improving the livelihood and the everything of a project. So if you're a designer and you want to be a part of this world, there's a way for you to do it. I love that. We always talk about non-code contributions, and there's always, you can do documentation, you can help with community organizing, but I personally have never made a really intentional effort to say designers have a huge space here, and now I have a place to send them. They can go to Open Source Design and learn and actually grow in their careers there. So this is amazing. I'm so grateful for both of you for your time today. Thank you for being here. Of course, you're always welcome if you want to come back. Eriol, I'm so annoyed that I'm not going to ATO this year, because it would have been amazing to meet you in person. But hopefully there'll be another opportunity. And also, folks, in case you missed that comment about one of the things that this awesome project provides is opportunities for people to travel to conferences who might not be able to on their own. So if you're a designer and you're looking to enrich your career and travel, get to know, the hallway tracks and conferences are always the best. That's when you just get to not only watch the talks, but also like just make connections and get jobs. Just it's a great place to be. So if you have an option to do that, definitely go. We have a customer for you already. Kojo Idrisa, Kojo, welcome to Open Source. This is a friend of Open Source Friday and an absolutely fantastic human being. Thank you for coming by. Please tell everyone, spread the word. Thank you. And shout out to the folks at DjangoCon. Hey, I hope you have a great conference. Thank you all for being here. Let's do our drawer. So I did it was the last moment for you to go ahead and enter. So I'll go ahead and pull those names down, and while I'm doing that, if anyone and if you need to run because it's like midnight for you, I completely understand. It's like I'm tired. I gotta go. It's so late. But let me collect those names, and then folks, yours truly did not think through how I was going to. I wanted to use this super flashy, beautiful little app that we have that does this automatic drawer, and it looks like a roulette, and it's really fancy and flashy and all. But because we're doing it live, I don't have time to parse information like your last names, and I really don't want to put everybody's details on the screen. So trust me that I'm doing it on the side here, and I am using the tool. I'm exporting all of the names, and I am going to use the tool to do the selection, but I won't be able to show it. So, but I am going to record my screen. So for the doubters out there, you can come and ask me. You can come and ask me later if you want to see what you want. So, okay, folks, last moment. If you would like to enter to the drawing for a ticket to ATO, please do it now, or the time is gonna be up right now. So I'm gonna close it out so I can do this export and run our little app and figure out who the winners are. And I hope in the next couple of weeks I'll be able to announce another really exciting giveaway. This is gonna be a really cool one. But for the folks who are in the chat and have been in the chat leaving comments, super appreciate you all. I do a little bit of a roulette thing also for you, because maybe you're not planning on going to ATO, maybe you're not local to Raleigh, or it's not in your purview. But hey, if you were here, I'm gonna parse through your comments and also select a random user to do it. Okay, I'm gonna mute myself so you don't hear the awesome way that it would have sounded, the little roulette, and maybe it's just me who can hear it. Okay, Kartik Sundaram. Kartik, you are our first winner. I'm going to write the name on the screen, and well, I guess once I have your details, thank you so much for entering the giveaway. I hope that you do make it to ATO. I hope for sure that you make it to Earl's awesome talk. Please, if for some reason comes up that you're not able to attend, please let me know as soon as possible so that we can go ahead and open this opportunity to someone who will be local or has the possibility of finding their own travel there. So congratulations, Kartik. You are the winner of the first ticket to ATO. And now let's do the second one. This would have been funner if I could show my screen, but it's okay. Okay. Oh my goodness, this is like I love this. This is a friend of the open source community and a friend of the show. Tejas, and I've always killed your name. I am so sorry. Tejas, you are a winner. So Tejas Gupta, congratulations. I also have your email address. You have won a ticket to ATO. So the two of you will be receiving an email from me in a moment. Give me a little grace. When I say a moment, I mean like in the next hour. And you will win. But now, and I will give you your details so you can register to the conference. But now I'm going to use the other little roulette tool, and we'll go ahead and select a very random, okay, and it's like it lands where it lands, and it lands where it lands. Let's see. Suraj Pillai, thank you. You were actually asking questions about best practices for scaling communities. So congratulations, you have won a gift card to the GitHub shop where you can buy whatever you want. So please send me DM at Ala Colombia Dev so that I can send you your code. So you can send me a DM. My DMs are open in the Bird site. Sorry, I gotta send you there, but that's where I am for now. So go to the Bird site, send me a DM, and I will return with a code. Earl, Jen, you're awesome. Thank you so much for being here. Thanks for hanging out for the draw as well. I hope that you come back, and if there's anything that we ever can do from these parts for open source design, please count on us. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right, folks. All right, folks. I want you to please give a massive shout out to our guests today on the chat. Do not forget, let's go by the repo. Let's start the repo. If you're a designer, if you're someone who is, it doesn't matter the point of your career that you are, there is so many advantages for you to join this amazing project and be a part of this community. So please, please, please take it to heart. I love the stories that they shared today about how not only personal impact, but they see in the community people getting jobs, people upscaling. This is all that can happen in open source. So be a part of it, please. I appreciate you all. I will see you next week for another Open Source Friday. I hope to have a really exciting announcement of a giveaway then. Legal would kill me if I say something. So I have to wait. But next week we'll do something fun as well. For those of you who are tuning in from South America, the GitHub team will actually be down there in Buenos Aires, Argentina for Nerdiarla, which, by the way, is a completely free conference, and there are talks in English. So I am going to share that link right now for you. There is some really, really amazing speakers that are going to be part of that lineup. This conference happens every single year, and it's put on by the amazing folks at CIS Army. Again, this is absolutely free. Everyone can be a part of it. Yours truly and some of my colleagues from GitHub will be giving talks. My talk is virtual. And we're going to be reviewing the GitHub Fundamentals certification. So join if you're interested in taking that certification, because I might be able to give you a certification voucher so that you can take the test and not pay for it. So definitely register for the conference, and we'll see you on next Open Source Friday. For all of you who are planning to go into ATO, I hope you have an amazing time. For the folks who won, I hope to hear from you, your experience. Maybe we'll bring you to an Open Source Friday. You can be our guest and share how good of a time you had there. Thank you for being here all. Thank you for your support of open source. We'll see you next week. Take care.